Alright, so today we are exploring Carolanne Farms Park. It's right off the Elizabeth River, kind of on the Virginia Beach-Norfolk border. So over here we're surrounded by neighborhood. There's a lake that's this way and the river that's over there. I've heard so many weird stories about this park and the neighborhood in general. So many stories about shadow figures, spectral, ghostly figures. And so I thought I'd share some that I can remember. But the main one that I specifically want to talk about is a UFO sighting that happened here in the 1960s. So I have I guess I would call her a great aunt-in-law, and she lived on the street that is beyond this lake here. There's the start of the neighborhood back there. And basically her bedroom window faced this park. And she said she was about, I don't know, 11, 12, 13-ish, that preteen stage of life. So it would have been the early 60s, 1961, 62. And she was looking at her bedroom window at night, and she saw very strange, bright lights basically zoom through the sky and then crash back here into the wooded area. And just for a little background, in the 1960s, there were absolutely military bases here. There's been military bases here since forever. There's always been military outposts. We are surrounded by them. So there's always planes and jets and drones going by. And it's also a major city. There's airports, there's all this stuff. But in the 1960s, this area was not as built up. So there were military bases, but there's also just vast farmland. So there wasn't as much light pollution. There wasn't as many things flying through the sky then as there is now, going on 60 years later. So anyway, she watched these lights crash back here. I guess there wasn't any, like, explosion or anything like that to really make anyone in the surrounding neighborhood worried or notice or anything like that. But she had got up the next day with the other neighborhood kids who had also been up late and had saw the thing go in the sky and then crash into the woods. So all those neighborhood kids came back here, and she said that there wasn't any debris, but there's definite burn marks through the grass, just an area of like grass and brush and all this that had just been completely gone. It was just gone. It was burned up, gone. But then there was also some very specific etched out burn marks in the shape of 3 circles, and she described it as like a man's electric shaver. So it would have been something like that she saw that was burned into the ground. So yeah, and she said that it had kind of stayed a weird place for a little bit, but nothing ever came of it. It was just kind of her and the neighborhood kids that saw it. So I thought that was interesting. So, and there's actually a very long history of UFO sightings in this area. Again, especially because there are military bases here. People see things all the time that they confuse, you know, for actual things that are flying around. I just talked to a friend of mine like a couple months ago, and she was talking about how her and husband had seen weird red lights that were going up and down the ocean front at the beach. And I was like, well, those are the drone lights. And I don't remember, I'm pretty sure that the military drone lights, they could be police ones too, they got both those things flying down in that area all the time. So I think I kind of burst her bubble on that. But it's just kind of an example of people mistaking certain things in the sky for the unknown. But then again, there are definitely stories of unknown lights where you have actual military pilots who call things in and they have no idea what they had just seen in the sky, and it happens all the time here. And if you're into UFO lore and everything like that, you would know that military bases and UFOs go hand in hand. They are always, it just seems like they're circling each other all the time. So that's very interesting. Definitely something I would like to go into more detail about the more I go into the more local UFO lore here. So another story that I heard here, my partner person, he was sitting out in his car on the street over there, right across from the lake that you see over here. And he had, I guess it was just like a mist that rolled in. And the mist was in the shape of, he said, kind of like a Native American hunting party. They were kind of all done up. They had all their weapons out. They were kind of doing a walk that indicated they were trying to be stealthy and quiet, like definitely a hunting sort of stance. So he saw those sort of mist figures go from this lake here right across the street and then disappear. And like I said, there's so much in this neighborhood, this area. There was, you know, there was Native American villages that ran up all along the Elizabeth River here. There was a, I guess, a river port called Newtown that was here. And during the Revolutionary War, it was a very prominent town at the time. It was like the head seat of Princess Anne County. So when Lord Dunmore came in to bomb Norfolk, all the Norfolk residents came and took refuge at Newtown. And then shortly after that, the town just kind of disappears from history, and the head seat of Princess Anne County moves to Kemp's Landing, and then you just kind of never hear about the town ever again, except for when they are building things around here and they come across the artifacts and you know, kind of the remains of the old buildings that used to be here. Yeah, so here's the lake here. I'd heard some weird, I hear some weird neighborhood stories. Oh, do you see that? That's not very good, but there he is. Look at him. Oh, he's showing off. I need to get a better camera, y'all. Okay, so I heard this weird neighborhood story about a horse farm. And this area, before they built all the neighborhood back there that you can see, used to be a horse farm. And I guess there was a fire that happened, and like a majority of the horses were burned and dead and all that. And you know, this is like 100-some years ago, so they needed to do something with the horse bodies. And what I was told is that they threw the horse bodies into this lake. Kind of morbid, but you know, people did that kind of stuff back in the day. I don't know. So that's some kind of weird neighborhood story there. Here you got the Elizabeth River over here. And the Elizabeth River, if you are a history buff, there's so much little anecdotes about just, you know, like I said, the Native American history here, going into colonial exploration, Revolutionary War, Civil War. I've found stories about pirates that used to roam up and down the Elizabeth River here. So if you are into that stuff, you know, definitely give it a look into. Lots of interesting stories there. Maybe could find some more spooky ones to go into. So I know that there's one about a French pirate boat, and they took like the southern branch of the Elizabeth River, which is going into the Dismal Swamp area. And basically they were on the run and got completely destroyed by I guess one of the English ships, and so now they basically once their ship was gone, they took the treasure and they buried it in the Dismal Swamp. And the legend is you like kind of see and hear those French pirates, you know, trying to get their treasure in the Dismal Swamp. But that is definitely a whole nother area to go into. The Dismal Swamp has so many cool stories about it, so we're definitely going to be going there, especially during the winter, because the summertime in the Dismal Swamp is unbearable. It's beautiful, but it is just a bug haven, and I don't feel like getting bitten to death, so that'll probably definitely be one I do in the winter. Got all these ducks out here. Yeah, so anyway, those are the stories I have now about this park, and I have more about the neighborhood. I used to live in this neighborhood, and the house that I lived in was definitely haunted. I have so many stories about it. People who've visited have so many stories about it, so that's definitely one I'm gonna go into eventually. But yeah, so this is the park. Said lots of cool stuff. Oh, so you know, I said people have seen lots of weird things here. I know there's so many more stories that I could probably get from other people. I'm probably gonna do that. But I will say that maybe about 4 or 5 years ago, they did find a body back here, and I don't know the details about it or anything like that. I said there is strangeness back here. For as pretty as it is, for some reason, pretty tends to equal strange. So yeah, so we'll be definitely doing more. There's so many places around here to explore, and I'm super excited about sharing that with y'all. So I hope you all have a beautiful day or evening or whenever y'all are watching this. See ya. Okay, so I was talking about the Newport colony that was kind of like the main river port before you hit Norfolk. And this river was it was basically like the main highway between all the colonies and plantations and all that went up and down this river until you got to Norfolk, up north that way. So like I said, that there were pirates in the area, and because there were pirates in the area, basically what they did with captured pirates is they would tie them to these stakes in the water or in cages and basically let, you know, the tide and nature drown them. And unfortunately, this practice was also used on the enslaved peoples who were who ran away and then were captured. They would suffer the same fate. And so they left these bodies tied to these poles all up and down this river here, and especially in this Newport area, it did happen a lot. Because again, it would, when you're on your way up through here and then into Norfolk, it would kind of be used as a warning, I guess. But people have talked about hearing unnatural screams back here from, I guess I would think it would have been from those people that were pretty much left to die and drown out here, which, I mean, you're watching your own death as you slowly watch the water come up until it's above your, you know, your face, and that's it. So that's, you know, that's traumatic. That's a traumatic way to leave this world. And if people do hear unnatural screaming from that, I would not be surprised. So that is another sort of bit of history and lore from this area.